everything is so finite. I mean, but don't you think that's what makes our time and specific moments so important?
If you were to ask me what my favorite rom-com was, you would get an almost immediate answer: 1989's When Harry Met Sally. Not only does it have one of the most iconic New Year's scenes, second only to that of the first High School Musical, not only does it have one of the most romantic lines ever written, not only does it have the queen of the 90s rom-com, Meg Ryan herself, but it plays with one of my favorite romance tropes: enemies to friends to lovers. I adore enemies to lovers, and I practically worship the ground that friends to lovers walks on, but something about the slow burn of enemies to friends to lovers just sends me into another dimension. I love how infinite their timeline feels, how we watch Harry and Sally grow through the years, knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how long it takes, they will end up together. Where this formula works for my favorite rom-com, the same can't be said for my favorite romance and maybe my all-time favorite movie, Before Sunrise. Of course, if you were to look at the entire trilogy, we do see Jesse and Celine grow over the course of 18 years, but for the purpose of this video, we are going to look at Before Sunrise as if it were a standalone film. Where Harry and Sally have about 10 years to end up together, Jesse and Celine have a mere fraction of that, a brief 12 hours together. Where Harry and Sally feel infinite, here there's this sense of impending dread because we know that Jesse and Celine will have to part ways and maybe never see each other ever again. Except, there really isn't. In fact, the only time we really feel the pressure of their imminent separation is when they're saying goodbye at the train station, and even then, there's a glimmer of hope because they swear that they're going to meet again. I would even go as far as to say that we are only really aware of how limited their time is when one of the characters mentions it.
After tomorrow morning, we're probably never gonna see each other again, right?
You don't think we'll ever see each other again?
What do you think?
For most of the film, we actually feel suspended in time, caught between the conversations and the chemistry of the two leads. Time in film has been played with over and over again. It's been scrambled around, bent, expanded, but here, time is made special, specifically because of its brevity. To explain what I mean, I have to talk a little bit about philosophy and mortality, so bear with me for a second. And just as a quick disclaimer, I'm by no means a philosophy student. I did study this piece briefly, so if I am misinterpreting it in any way, go ahead and leave a comment and I'd be happy to engage in some good old discourse down below. So the philosopher Richard Taylor, in his essay, The Meaning of Life, makes the argument that life is essentially meaningless because nothing we ever make or build or achieve will stand the test of time. Please don't click off the video. I promise I'm getting to a point. If everything we do will ever fade, that means that all of our everyday actions, even working towards long-term goals, that makes all of these things pointless activity. Even on the flip side of this pointless activity, if we were somehow able to achieve everything that we ever wanted and we knew that it would stand the test of time, we would run out of things to do and we would live in infinite boredom. A really good example of this would be in the TV show The Good Place, when the main characters realize that everyone in the good place is experiencing this sort of meaningless existence because there simply isn't anything left to do. All of the inhabitants of the good place have spent eternity working towards everything that they weren't able to do on Earth, and since they've reached that, life, or in this case the afterlife, means nothing. So in summary, Taylor says that life is meaningless because everyone is going to die, and even if we didn't, we could never remain fulfilled. So for those of you still here that I haven't scared away with an existential crisis, I will say that Taylor does offer one piece of reprieve. He writes, "The point of living is simply to be living, in the manner that it is his nature to be living. What counts is that one should be able to begin a new task. It counts only because it is there to be done and he has the will to do it. The meaning of life is from within us. It is not bestowed from without, and it far exceeds in both its beauty and its permanence any heaven of which men have ever dreamed or yearning for." So yes, life is meaningless and it's impossible to make something that will last forever, but what really matters is that we continue to find things in our everyday life that fulfill us. We have the power to ascribe meaning to our own life. Now, back to Jesse and Celine, finally. Though Taylor talks about human mortality here in his essay, he also mentions that we can examine the lives of nations, of whole species, of the world, so I see no reason why we cannot apply this relationship to this viewpoint. Jesse, Celine, and the audience knows that their day will come to an end, and the chances of them ever seeing each other again are slim, so what's the point? What's the point of even trying here if we know that it's going to come to nothing? By the way, if you happen to hate that philosophy discussion, I should probably warn you now that when I make Before Midnight's video, I will be talking a lot more about the infinite boredom piece. Luckily, the point of all this comes in one of the most powerful points of dialogue in the entire film. It's one of my absolute favorite quotes ever, and I'm happy to share it here.
You know, I believe if there's any kind of God, it wouldn't be in any of us. Not you or me, but just this little space in between. If there's any kind of magic in this world, it must be in the attempt of understanding someone, sharing something. I know, it's almost impossible to succeed, but who cares, really? The answer must be in the attempt.
The answer is in the attempt. Celine offers a point similar to Taylor's in saying that the point of life or love is not to achieve something, it's in finding fulfillment in the everyday. In most romance films, there is a singular goal to get the girl, or guy, or person of interest, if you will. When the two leads kiss, or get married, or finally reconcile after 10 long years, that's when the audience can count on the credits to roll. There is no such goal in Before Sunrise. Their only real goal is to find fulfillment in the everyday. We see this in the way that the film almost romanticizes the little moments during their time together, dancing in an empty square, listening to a poem, laying on the grass in the dark, and the film's strong point, just talking. The simple act of talking and really listening. These little small things are made special because we know that that's all that Jesse and Celine will have. It's also the point of this knowledge because of the fact that their time together is going to be extremely brief, that Jesse and Celine are able to be so vulnerable and raw with each other. Think about the conversations you have with people over the course of time. At first, your conversations are essentially fluff. How's the weather? I like your shirt. How many dogs do you have? It isn't until you're comfortable with the person that you begin to really, really open up to them. Like, I don't know about you guys, but the conversations I have with the girl from my psychology class is very, very different from the conversations that I have with my friends of 9 years. Jesse and Celine don't have this time to waste. Over the course of the night, they talk about their deepest insecurities, their childhoods, the meaning of life, death, love, and loss. Of course, it might be the instant connection and chemistry between them that prompts them to share so much of themselves, but it's also the fact that they may never see each other again. There's a layer of safety to spilling your deepest secrets to strangers. Anyone who has made any sort of substantial connection online can tell you that. So why am I saying all this? What's the point? Why did I even make this video? So, not to make everything about me again, but on a personal level, I've been deeply struggling for the past few months. I experienced an unexpected breakup that has completely turned my world upside down. My entire life, I've struggled with mental health, but since November, I've been grappling with the worst depression that I've had in my entire life. I began to adopt this pessimistic view. What's the point of even getting into any relationship anymore if it's just going to end? When you really think about it, all relationships end in either marriage, which means death, or a breakup. I don't want to get too much into the details of my relationship or the breakup for the sake of my ex's privacy, but for the point I'm making, I will say that I was under the assumption that we were going to eventually be married. Those long timeline romances that start with childhood best friends to soulmates, not to be like dramatic, but that was my reality until a few months ago. So I found myself asking, why? Why even start something with someone new when it's all going to end? And by some miracle, I decided to rewatch this film and I found the answer in this very scene. Of course it's going to end. Everything is going to end. But the answer is in the attempt. Yes, things ended badly between my ex and I no longer have this person in my life. But I did. And when I did, it was good. He fulfilled me for the time being, and now I have to take it upon myself to find other things or other people to fulfill me carrying on. Our shared time was special, and even if it was tainted by how we see each other now, in the moment, it was special, and that's what matters. Mental health right now in the world is at an all-time low. Things have been, for lack of a better word, absolute dog shit for almost an entire year. And I don't want my closing statements to be twisted, so as a quick disclaimer, what I'm about to say is not an end-all solution for everything. There needs to be real reform at a societal level for things to begin improving, and I'm not trying to gloss over that with what I'm about to say. So anyways, yes, things are bad. But beauty in the world still exists. There are ways to find fulfillment even in these times. It's scary, terrifying even, to come to terms with mortality, whether that be the mortality of a way of life, a relationship, a loved one, or ourselves. Our time is limited, yes, but in a way, doesn't that make it special?